I'm sure that you will agree that there is more to learning about being an effective leader than you could ever learn in any book. For those of you who've been around for a while, if you've been a manager for a while, you know there's more. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you're here, right? The one thing about being an audacious leader is that we are lifelong learners and we take every opportunity to be able to learn and develop our skills so that we can move forward. When we got promoted, if we get training at all as leaders, it's usually just really the science of leadership. It's the policies, the procedures, HR soft skills, and that sort of thing. But we don't get trained in the art of leadership. Our presenter today has a long list of leadership achievements. And with her 35 years of business experience, Loretta Khuland knows what matters and what works in leadership. Having transitioned herself from being an autocrat to a gracious leader, Loretta advocates for graciousness as a way to build success, happiness, and fulfillment as a leader. With her presentation, Graciousness, the Lost Art of Leadership, please welcome to the virtual stage, Loretta Khuland.
Thank you, Mark. Jack Welch, the iconic and late CEO of General Electric, said, "Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others." For over 35 years, I've read numerous books and articles on leadership. I've attended more trainings than I can remember. I've listened to speeches. I've studied theories of leadership. In my human resources and business operations, my consulting and coaching roles, I've done hundreds of trainings on leadership. I've led teams in small organizations as well as large teams in global organizations, both for-profit and non-for-profit organizations. I've made leadership mistakes. I've both underestimated and overestimated the talent, commitment, and honesty of individuals. And I can brag about numerous leadership successes where I encouraged individuals to exceed their own sense of self and deliver exceptional business outcomes. I confidently say to you that I come to you with a solid understanding of both the academics and the challenges of leadership. In our talk today, Graciousness, the Lost Art of Leadership, we're going to review the science of leadership, the art of leadership, and then I'm going to talk about how to be gracious in business. First, the science of leadership. We are told, and I tell others in my work, that leadership is a science marked by a plurality of skills. Just Google the science of leadership. I did this last week. 761 million references, including one, use these 15 science-based leadership skills today. We strive to measure leadership success. We want to quantify it. We determine which skills and abilities are most valuable, all because we desperately want to unlock the key to leadership success. Here are some of the things in the science of leadership. We talk about skills and knowledge. We talk about characteristics we need as leaders, types of leadership, styles of leadership, and corporate culture. I'm going to review a few of these. In terms of the skills we need and knowledge, numerous. We need interpersonal skills. We need to be self-aware, have emotional intelligence, be open, be adaptable. We need to have strategic skills, vision, risk-taking, decision-making, analytical thinking, goal setting and planning. We need business skills. We need to understand finance and budgeting, sales, compliance. We need to have some IT or systems knowledge, maybe public relations, marketing, and in some organizations, depending on our positions, even board management. Of course, we need people management skills from hiring to communication, supervision, motivation, development. We need change and crisis management skills. And then, of course, we need the functional skills for the industries in which we are working, whether it's aerospace or transportation, engineering, finance, whatever it is, we need to understand the industry itself. And if relevant, we need to have global or cross-cultural sensitivities. Then they tell us all the characteristics we need to be successful. We need to be confident and ethical, decisive and strong, bold. Yet we can't be too confident, or we need to have others involved in our decision making. They send us mixed signals. Then we are told about the different types of leadership that we need to practice: situational leadership, transformational leadership, transactional leadership, individual leadership, collective leadership, team leadership. And then there's all the styles of leadership we need to know. There's the autocratic, as Mark said, I used to be, command and control. Collaborative leadership, servant leadership is the new buzz term, democratic or political leadership styles. And then in some corporations, it's just about the bottom line. Did I achieve the goals assigned to me? In some corporate cultures, they want to make sure that in achieving our goals, we're also thinking about diversity and inclusion. So what does all this tell us? It tells us that leaders need to have a flurry of skills. We need to be able to do everything and have different leadership styles for different situations, different groups, different individuals. It seems quite overwhelming, and obviously it's unrealistic. While there are, of course, some basic skills or knowledge and abilities that are needed for success for leaders to be effective, we cannot know everything and we cannot be everything. We need others to get the work done. We need others to achieve the business goals. We need others for us to be successful in our leadership roles. If leadership in its most basic definition is getting others to do what we need them to do, then I argue that the skills, characteristics, styles, types, the science of leadership is insufficient for getting others to do what we need them to do, which leads us to the art of leadership. And while we can look at the art of leadership like the art of war, with the use of power, control, punishment, criticism to strong arm others into doing what we need them to do, I argue that graciousness is not just more civilized, but it is more effective for leadership. And what I have found, it makes me happier as a leader, which then generates more positivity in my leadership style. Why not control others? Well, we often liken business to war, kill or be killed. Kindness is weakness. Don't let them see you sweat. All these myths and sayings that we've heard. The cream rises to the top. I'm not going to baby my staff. They need to be strong to survive. Well, I see the world a little differently, and I am very lucky to have 4 very disparate sources that support my view. Often in leadership, we talk about the alpha wolf concept, the importance of control and the use of power. Well, actually, the AVSAB, which is the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, argues against the aggressive, submissive dichotomy in leadership of animals. In 2009, they actually published a paper that argued, quote, "It is leadership by showing a good example, not dominance, that owners should strive for in their relationship with the dogs." And this was based on many studies they've done on wolf packs. Contrary to an older view, they now believe that the alpha dog's prominence comes from setting a good example, not by dominance, controlling, and fighting. My next source is General George Patton, a controversial general in World War II, known for his strict discipline, toughness, and self-sacrifice. His men called him "Oh Blood and Guts." And he was quoted as saying, "Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what you need them to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity." In this approach, he trusted the skills and abilities of his troops and his staff to deliver. My third source is Zen Master Suzuki, who is considered the founding father of Zen Buddhism in America. He said, "Even if you try to put people under some control, it is impossible. You cannot do it. The best way to control people is to encourage them to be mischievous, Let them do what they want and watch them. And my fourth source is Mary Parker Follett. She's considered the mother of modern management. And for those who do not know her, she was around in the early 1900s, one of the pioneers of management. And she said that the art of getting things, that management is the art of getting things done through people. And leadership, quote, is not defined by the exercise of power, but by the capacity to increase the sense of power among those who are led. We can agree these are four very different individuals from four very different time periods in our history, and yet they all agree that trying to control others does not work. My conclusion, after all these years in the field, being led, leading individuals and teams, and coaching others, is that it's the art of leadership that is more important. And I'm defining the art of leadership as one, it's a relationship, it's personal, it's not a series of transactions. Second, it requires that you genuinely care about people. And third, it means listening with an open mind. Now, this may sound complicated and time consuming, and I would argue no, it's simply about being gracious. What does gracious mean? Well, Merriam-Webster defines gracious as marked by 5 characteristics: kindness and courtesy, tact and delicacy, charm and good taste, generosity of spirit, and compassion. I'm going to break this down and talk about how we practice graciousness in a business setting. Let's start with kindness and courtesy. This is very simple. Remember the alpha dog? Well, we do not need to scream and chastise to get others to do what we need. Each interaction that we have should show kindness and courtesy. Use the simple please and thank you. Okay, I can hear you telling me, why do I have to say please and thank you? This is my staff, this is their job. Why do I have to do that? A few things. One, because it does make a difference. Respecting people does make a difference. And it reminds the other person that you see them as an individual and not simply a cog in the machine. Saying thank you also has other benefits. It can serve as recognition. And if you are specific in your thank you, it actually is behavioral reinforcement that helps individuals know what they did well. So if I say, hey, Bob, thanks for the notes on that report that you gave me. They were clear and really helpful, and they saved me time digging into the explanation of the numbers. Thank you. Do you think the next time Bob does a report for you, he's going to spend his time developing notes? Yes, because you just thanked him for doing so and told him how that benefited you. Another way that we show kindness and courtesy at work is by respecting other people's time. And this is very big. For people to be able to keep family commitments in mind when we create our schedules is very important. Just think about it. A 15-minute window, a meeting starting at 8 o'clock in the morning versus 8:15 might give the ability of someone to drop their child off at school. And if we end our meeting at 4:45 instead of 5, it could mean that someone could be home on time for dinner or for some other commitment, or maybe somebody wants to take a class after work. Related to this, big proponent on starting meetings and ending meetings on time. I don't know about you, but if I think I'm getting done at 5 o'clock, I expect at 5 o'clock to walk out of the room, and I build the rest of my life based on the idea that I'm going to be done at 5, so I could be home at 6, whatever it is. Respect other people's time by taking them into account when you do the same thing. If the meeting starts to run over, stop it and finish it on another day. In fact, if you want to be a hero, end the meeting a little early. And we always want to ask if it's a good time before jumping into a conversation. I actually managed a team where we agreed I can walk into somebody's office, but I had to say, do you have a minute? And it meant under 5 minutes. And the person was allowed to say, yeah, come on in and sit down, or I'm in the middle of something, can I get back to you? It is perfectly fine to say to someone, I'm in the middle of something, just give me 15 minutes to finish this and I will stop by. Another way that we show kindness and courtesy is to lend someone your strength. I read this recently when I was doing work for this presentation, that kindness is lending someone your strength instead of reminding them of their weakness. So when we encourage others, when we give them confidence, this is a sign of kindness. You're assigning someone, when you're giving someone an assignment at work, you say, hey, Mary, I want you to be the project manager for this new project that we're working on. And you know this is the first time in that role, and maybe she's concerned. You say, I know you've got this. That's why I'm assigning it to you. Yeah, it may be a stretch, but if you have any concerns or issues or want to bounce any ideas off of me, I am here for you. That's how we help others. That's kindness and courtesy. We lend them the strength, we encourage them, we give them confidence. A second characteristic of graciousness is tact and delicacy. Classical thinking on leadership, some of the myths I mentioned before, is I'm not going to baby my staff. I'm going to tell them like it is. Well, that's fine and good. And I strongly believe in giving people honest and direct feedback. I'm just saying that we can be tactful and delicate in how we are doing it. We can be sensitive to the individual and how they may be feeling, how it might impact them. Are they going to be embarrassed by it? Don't rush. Make sure you give it time. I don't know if you've ever done an annual evaluation for somebody. I always say, schedule an hour. If it takes 15 minutes, great. But you never want to start any feedback conversation or a conversation with an employee and then have to rush away. It seems so disrespectful to me. Make sure you schedule enough time to have a feedback conversation or to give someone an assignment so they have the time to ask questions. If someone didn't do something right, don't accuse them. Don't assume you know what happened. Ask them what happened and listen. That doesn't mean that if they didn't achieve their goals or they missed their sales numbers, that that's okay. It just means that you understand what happened so that then you can help them in the future fix it so the next time they can achieve those goals. Whenever possible, talk in private. Another way that we are tactful and are delicate with our employees. If you can't bring them into an office or you don't have an office, use a low voice when you talk to them. Think about their reputation. Don't do it in public. Don't do it in front of others, and don't raise your voice. We also want to watch our tone. Sometimes we're sarcastic or we don't believe in what somebody's saying, or we're going to roll our eyes, whatever it is. Be careful. And circle back. You want to follow up with the individual when you've had a conversation with them, whether that's giving them an assignment or giving them feedback. Make sure the person understood, make sure it's stuck, and give them the opportunity if they have some comments. They may have thought of something after you talk to them and want to talk to you about it. In general, it's important to be sincere. If you don't actually care about the other, that's going to seep through your conversation, and all that want of delicacy and tact is going to go away. A third way that we practice graciousness at work is with charm and good taste. This one is very easy. You want to be positive and upbeat, optimistic. You want to smile. You want to say good morning and good night. You want to ask people about their day, about their weekend, about their family, about their kids. Don't complain and be sarcastic. As a leader, I find that so inappropriate. If we are not happy in our positions and we're in a leadership position, it is up to us to address that and take care of it. Deal with it ourselves. It is not okay to push that down to our team. We need to put our best foot forward in all our interactions. Don't tell jokes that could offend someone. The standard for this has increased over time, and maybe we think it's a very vanilla environment now where I have to walk on eggshells. There's plenty of other things that we can be talking about in the workplace that we don't have to be telling off-color jokes. Actually, I learned a few jokes that are very generic and funny that I use if I need to tell a joke, so that I don't put myself in a situation where I'm going to tell an off-color joke. Related to this, we have to watch our language. I grew up in the 80s in financial services, and we cursed a lot. And then I went to a nonprofit environment, and I learned that that was inappropriate. I no longer curse in the workplace unless I'm very agitated. That's another way that we show charm and good taste. Watch your body language. I mentioned this before, but we need to be careful about rolling our eyes or sighing, things that we do, again, when we're not feeling it, when we're not in the moment. And this can send a very negative signal to the people that work with us. We want to respect ourselves. We want to present our best self. And that's in how we dress, our hair, our body language, the language that we use. Be the best that you can be in your leadership role. Model the behavior you want to see. A lot of times at work, we negatively bond. That is how we build our work connections. Somebody will say, oh, I got 100 emails between the time I left on Friday and I came in on Monday. Or can you believe I got this last minute assignment? And these may be true things that happen at work, but as a leader, we do not reinforce them. We do not take them on, and we definitely do not say these things to the people we lead and the people that we work with collaboratively as peers in other teams. Okay, we address them. If somebody does that to you and says, I changed the subject. Like, I'm sorry to hear that. I had a great weekend, or, I went to my daughter's ballet recital last night, and I talk about positive things. I switch it around and I change it. I talk about a good meeting. I talk about a great idea that somebody had. I turn it around. Do not continue to do negative behavior or have negative comments at work. Be positive and upbeat. A fourth way that we are gracious at work is to show generosity of spirit. First and foremost, give of your time. I've mentioned this before, but time is just the perfect example and symbol that we care about others. And I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, oh, please, I don't have time to do the work I currently have. I don't have time to go home. I don't have time to spend with my family. And now you're asking me to give time to other people. And I'm saying, yes, I disagree wholeheartedly that we do not have time. Taking the time up front, you will learn if you practice this, is an investment, and it saves time in the long run. This talk in general, the art of leadership, graciousness, I'm asking you to change your focus at work, to think differently about how we lead. And one way is the use of time. I really don't think I need to convince you or ask you for a leap of faith in this. I just need you to remember a situation where somebody took the time for you. Maybe they helped you with a new software or application you're working on at work. Maybe they sat and listened to you when you worked through an idea before you brought it up in a meeting. Maybe they helped you with some suggestions on how to work with your supervisor or make a pitch to the board, or like somebody listened to me before I did this presentation. We have all had those situations where other people made time for us, and we know what that feels like. I'm asking you to do the same for others. That is how we have generosity of spirit. Another way that we show generosity of spirit, another way that we are gracious, is to actually pay attention when people are talking to us. Someone comes into your office and you're on your computer, we need to turn away. And if the phone rings, we don't answer it. We pay attention to the person. If we're in the middle of something, as I mentioned before, and you don't have time to stop and you can't pay attention, you say to the person, I want to hear what you have to say. I'm in the middle of this, or I'm expecting a call. Can I come by in a half an hour? Can we do this in the morning? Yes, I want to pay attention to you. I can't do it this minute, but don't do it halfway. And if you're in a meeting, don't look at your laptop. Don't be playing on your phone, checking email. Pay attention. Another way we show generosity of spirit is by sharing our experiences, maybe mentoring somebody, offering suggestions, encouraging others. Do the things that people have done for us. Pay it forward. A lot of times we live in this, we live in our own little worlds, and I'm asking us to step outside of those and show generosity of spirit, help others. People have helped us. That's why we're in leadership positions. Someone gave us a shot or gave us a promotion or believed in us. We need to do the same for others. And a fourth way that we show generosity of spirit is by making and reinforcing connections in every communication we have. Again, Mark said that I used to be the autocrat. I was. If I sent an email, if I needed something from you, I'd basically say, hey, Ken, can you send me those numbers from the LA office? I didn't get them in my package. That's it. Now, if I send an email or I ask for something, I'll say, hey, Kenny, I'll put a to Kenny and then say, I'm not sure if you had time yet to review the last number sent out yesterday. When you do, can you see if yours included the LA numbers? Mine didn't, and I'd appreciate a copy. No rush. And by the way, it's been a while. Maybe it's time we go get some lunch. Regards, Loretta. Every interaction we have, we wanted to build relationships with others. They are not there just for us. We want to care about other people, like ask them again about their day. But every communication should have some, name, please, thank you. And finally, we want to be empathetic. If we're ever at a loss of figuring out how to communicate, what to say, how to think about other people, just be empathetic. How would you want to be treated? How would you want someone to talk to you? I'm sure you've received emails that have made your eyes roll or made you upset. Don't do that to other people. A final way that we can be gracious at work is through compassion. Stephen Covey wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read it, it's one of the best business books ever. And one of the 7 habits is to seek first to understand. The idea here is to deal with people from their vantage point. Okay, we have different skills and abilities. We have different perspectives. We also have different fears and motivations. We have different histories. We have different experiences that have gotten us to where we are, that impact how we behave. And we all have lives outside of work that impact how we come to work, our mood, how we think about things. So it's important that we seek really to understand what's going on for other people. And rather than judging them based on our own views, just try to really get into their head and understand, genuinely care. If we only judge people on the way we think or on some ideal of how somebody should be behaving or how they should do their work, we are leaving so much on the table. Remember that George Patton quote, General George Patton? Don't tell them how to do it. Let people come up with their own ideas and their own sense of delivery. I am not the queen of the best ideas in the universe, and neither are you. Other people have different views and different ideas. That's the beauty of a diverse environment. And if we don't judge and we are open to other ideas, we have the capacity to see and deliver the best possible outcomes at work. Otherwise, we're going to leave so much on the table. We're going to run the risk of not dotting our I's. And seriously, we run the risk of groupthink, which can be very, very dangerous. And finally, a way to be compassionate is to really value and allow for differences. We talk a lot about diversity. It's really about inclusion. It's really about including other people's experiences and perspectives. Most of the time when people are talking, we just can't wait to say what we want to say. We want to chime in, or we're preparing our response. I would ask you to think about this differently and maybe change how we listen. Listen as if you were taking minutes, or if you were going to have to report back on what somebody said. So if you were about to say something in a meeting, I'm asking you to practice this. Don't say anything. Instead of saying whatever you thought you were going to say, why don't you stop and ask the person to tell you more, or ask them a question? Get them to provide more information. You will find that this is really how we get to listen and understand others, to really let them finish their sentence. And as I say here, listen, ask questions, listen, and then listen some more. Give the other the opportunity to come forward and really explain what they have to say. So today, I shared a little bit of the science of leadership, which argues the need for leaders to possess all sorts of skills, knowledge, abilities, styles, and really to just have this flurry of capacity that we believe makes us successful. And in fact, I argue that the scientific approach, while it may have some value, it's not enough. It's the art of leadership. It's the how we lead that makes us successful and helps others to be successful. And then I reviewed some tips for being gracious in business. We want to practice kindness and courtesy, tact and delicacy. We want to have charm and good taste. We want to practice generosity of spirit, and we want to be compassionate. Practice compassion at work. With all of the information that I talked about, with all of the material I covered, I'm asking you for 4 takeaways. First, be mindful of others, their ideas, their fears, their motivations, their time. Understand that they may also be dealing with personal situations at home. Seek first to understand. Second, leadership is not a series of transactions. It is relationships, and they take time to build, and we need in every communication to reinforce those relationships. Third, kindness is not weakness. The Dalai Lama will tell you, and he says that he believes that actually to be kind takes greater strength and courage. We have to drop our guard when we're kind at work. We have to reveal a part of ourselves that is very scary. Kindness is not weakness. We can have high standards at work and be gracious. We can demand excellence at work and be kind. We can deliver outcomes without control and without harshness. And finally, if you are ever unsure of how to proceed, think empathy. How would you want to be treated? Thank you.
Wow, Loretta, thank you so much. Oh my goodness. You know, this is again like drinking from a fire hose. You brought up so much, many really good points on what it takes to start thinking about graciousness. One of the questions I do have for you, though, I have 2 questions. One is, an employee, somebody, or a supervisor's watching, attending this summit, and they say, "Ah, darn it, I wish my boss was here to see this."
Yeah.
What would you recommend to people who are under the guise or under the heavy thumb of a dictating kind of leader?
Yeah, and that's why I say many of us are in those situations, and we push that down and we live it.
Yes.
Look, I was brought up with a guy who would scream and yell. They threw things. And if anybody ever saw the movie Glengarry, Glen Ross, that was the environment I grew up in, and I thought that's how it meant. That's how you led, and that was strong and the very alpha dog. And the answer is no. And my answer to you is we need to be the people we want to be, right?
Yes.
What does he say? I have it here. Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. Change it moving forward. And if I am under the gun, if I am working for somebody that I don't respect, I'm sorry, leave.
Mm-hmm.
Find another place or figure out how to manage up. And one way we can manage up is to practice what I'm saying. So if I did this manager that I worked with, I would go into his office and he was like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you meant to say, thank you, Loretta, for starting this. I would have liked to have seen, and I would give him that language.
Yes.
And I can remember him giving a document to me. He would have this document with all these notes on it. And I would say, Jim, write thank you first. And he would do it. A lot of people just don't know how to do these things. And making a transition from an autocrat to a gracious leader, or trying any of these things, we have to believe it, we have to want it, we have to demand it, we have to ask for it, and we need to model that behavior.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes the answer is you have to leave.
Yeah.
If we can't impact others, I was going to tell the story in the training and I decided not to, but now that you asked, I worked in an organization where there was this gentleman. He had been there 17 years. He had won numerous awards for incredible sales and customer service. And after 17 years, he was going through a horrible divorce and his performance was falling off. They fired him. I was so aghast. This was such a gentle person. I quit. There had been a number of things at this organization I had witnessed, and it was enough for me to say, I do not want to work here. And I found another job and I moved. I moved from that organization. We come to a point where we say, this is not okay anymore.
Right. Right. Well, and you and I both have kind of lived the evolution, I think, of leadership, because like you, my first job in the late 70s, it was ruling by the iron thumb, right? It was carrot and sticking all the way. It was yelling and screaming to get performance to happen. And that was kind of the seed, I think, of the industrial worker age.
Yeah.
And then, Stephen Covey in his book talk about the knowledge worker age, and how we no longer just are hiring the hands, but we're hiring the minds as well. And now we're into the relationship leadership age, where it is about the hands, the mind, and the soul of the people that we're working with. And so I think, you and I are lucky in that regard, because we've seen how bad it really can be. However, there's still lots of baby boomers out there. There's still people out there who don't recognize that this really applies to them. How does one, what are the indicators that you think that if somebody's watching this and they're going, that's not me. Nah, yeah, sometimes I yell, but only because I need to get results. What kind of self-assessment can somebody do to say, you know what, I need to show more empathy. I need to build more compassion in what I'm doing.
Self-awareness is not easy.
No, it's not.
I mean, you can look at your data, are your employees coming forward with ideas? You can check the atmosphere of meetings. Are you doing more talking or more listening? Does anybody challenge you? Does anyone stand up to you? Does anyone innovate? I mean, there are many, many indicators of the atmosphere of a gracious atmosphere versus an autocratic atmosphere and everything in between.
Yes.
Are people coming forward? Are they staying? Are they raising their hand? I don't know. And you know, again, we have this thing about the cream rises to the top, you know, bull dinky. Some of us could use a little push. Some of us need a little encouragement. Some of us have come from an autocratic environment where it's not okay to raise your hand and don't, and just need somebody to say, anybody want to work on this project? Like, yeah, I do. I mean, I didn't think I could raise my hand to say I want to work on the project, but if you ask, asking is really a powerful tool.
Yes. Yeah. And
But I
I love what you just said about the cream rising to the top. Do you realize that the cream rises to the top a little bit faster if you stir it?
right. Right. And not just that, is the only way the cream is at the top is because there's 80% of capacity holding it up there. Right?
Beautiful metaphor.
Yes.
Absolutely a beautiful metaphor.
Yes, I always say 80% of us are soldiers. We show up, we do a good job and leave. Only 10% of us can be exceptional. We can be exceptional at different components or different parts of the day.
Yes.
The cream doesn't stay up there.
And what's great, you know, I really have to thank you so much for taking time out and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your research in this, because I think graciousness and civility in a workplace they're huge. I mean, there's so many books written about what happens when somebody gets dressed down in front of their coworkers. Not only to the person getting dressed down, but what happens to the coworkers and what's their performance change look like. You know, all the things that you talked about. You know, you mentioned the thing about the computer. I remember one episode where I was sitting in front of a computer. Somebody came in the office to talk to me, and I was in a rush to finish something by 5 o'clock or whatever. And the person was talking. And I'm yeah. And then I realized something that Stephen Covey said in his book. The problem that a person has to be as important to you as that person is to you.
Right.
And I thought, how important is this person to me now?
Right.
And I right then and there, I apologized. I turned off my screen because it wasn't a laptop at the time. I turned to the person and gave them my full attention.
And you know, I sort of said this kind of in passing, but there's 4 answers to every question or every situation. Yes, no, yes, but no, but. So if somebody comes in and wants to talk to you and you can't handle it, like you said, I'm rushing, I can say, you know, Mark, I want to talk to you about this. I have to finish this. Can we do it at 15? Can we do it in the morning? 99% of the time people are like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully if the person has some time emergency, you can put your stuff on hold and help them. And it's probably a quick thing.
Yep. I had a working scale that I used. So if somebody wanted to bring something to my attention, it wasn't so important, but it was something that they thought needed to get done. They go, Mark, I have a 5 for you.
Yeah.
Mark, I have an 8 for you. And then if it was like, oh, it's an 8. Oh, okay. Right. And then, of course, if it was a 9, the following digits were 1, 1. It was really important. So, and I thought that helped a lot of times to be able to get people to focus where the attention needed to be.
Right. And I think I told you the story is, this is the other thing about knowing the people who work for us. I had a woman come in my office and she sat down. This was not, she never came to my office. She walked in my office and sat down, and I just stopped what I was doing because I knew there was something very important to her that she needed to discuss. She didn't need to say a word, but again, when we watch our body language, when we really know the people we work with, we know if we're paying attention, we know.
We know. Yeah. Loretta, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been such super high value because I know to a lot of people who haven't been trained, a lot of people have to take years to kind of figure some of this stuff out. It's all done in trial and error and results and so on. It's like, I don't know why my turnover's so high. I don't know why this problem is happening. I don't know why people aren't listening or why people aren't performing. And you've kind of brought these aspects into it that people can now turn around and go, okay, am I being empathetic enough? Am I listening enough? Loretta, thank you so much.
I just want to say one more thing, Mark.
Sure.
That I think the hardest thing, especially for a new leader, is to let their guard down.
Yes.
We are told all this alpha dog stuff that we need to be strong. And the truth is you can be definitive, strong, and hold people to account, but we can do it with respect and dignity. can. It's not an either or. The content can be rough and tough. The how we do it can be gracious.
Wonderful. Loretta, great. And thank you so much. My name is Mark Hain. I am your host for the Audacious Leaders Summit.